So now, I'll be a bit fast. I will quickly re-explain the concept of inheritance. Now, we are saying we've created some classes last week. We created human, we created student, we created static examples. That one is just dummy. And we had even program CS. It's also a class in itself. Just that it's a class that actually executes is the entry point to our program. So now we said the concept of inheritance is, imagine you have so many classes and these classes are related. You have some methods, some attributes inside of it that are related. So instead of having duplicate of methods, duplicate of it, why don't we just um, let them inherit one another? So we use this example as a case. We said we have class called humans, and we have some properties inside humans. We have name, we have speech rate, we have it, we have surname. Then we have student. Now, a student is also human, and a student is a student. Definitely, we have a name and all that. So, instead of coming and recreating some methods like it, say name, and even other things itself, why don't we just inherit um, this class called human, so that we can have access to those attributes it has? So now what we did in student then was that we inherit. So that's the concept of inheritance. So we use in front of the class you created student, then you put in front of it the name of the class you want to inherit. So in this case now we call human the base class, while we call student the derived class. So the derived class is inheriting the properties of human, such that when you create an object of the derived class, which in this case the student, you also have access to the properties inside the base class. So, and we did an example here. So we said normally student does not have anything to do with human, but here now std1 we now have access to I number, which is originally a property of a member of human. So we're able to have access to it through the concept of inheritance. So now let me also use this opportunity to explain the access modifier called protected I was explaining the other time. Now protected, you know, the concept of private is any member's name private can only be used inside the class. You can't use this even in the object or anywhere. And protected also, you can't use this in the object, but you can only use protected attributes inside the class and also in classes that inherit such class. So in this case now, I will have access to speech rate because it inherited it. So from here now, coming. I'm sorry. Now be inside here. So while I'm inside here, I have access to speech rate. Where is student? Okay, student. Aha. So let's suppose, for example, I work on the speech rate inside there. I can say this dot speech rate. You can see now I have access to it. I can set it from 34. So I have access to properties that are inside the base class. So speech rate was actually inside human. So I have access to it inside my derived class. So, but if it's public, everybody have access to it. So let's try and modify this code. Let's try and modify it. And in programming, they call it refactoring. Refactoring is when you try to remove some unnecessaries. So now, under student, we collected name. We can decide to remove it. Since we have name, we can put name. Any human being should have a name. So let human class undo that. So remove that property from student. So you don't need to put it inside this since we are inheriting from Iman. So in my product, so when I say student.name now, so when I say student.name, I'm actually having access to the name. So it will go down to Iman. It will go down to Iman. So I can have access to some other details. So maybe I want the student to eat, which is actually a member of Iman. Now I can say std dot I want student want to eat. So I'll just call it. So which is a method. So that's just all. So now you can see now it's underlying name for me because I've removed it from student. It is now capital letter name. And it's capital letter name because under Iman, we made small letter name private and we made capital letter name public so that we are protecting. So when you have a variable you want to protect, you make it private. You want to protect it from objects having access to it. So that's the concept of inheritance. So I want to ask, do we understand now what inheritance is, how to create an inheritance, and the significance, how you can apply inheritance? So I want our individual responses. So Mr. Adele will start. I just want the response. Do you understand the concept of inheritance?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, Mrs. Goodness. Okay, Mr. Atimeleyin.
Yes.
Okay, Miss Goodness.
Sorry, my network got disconnected, so I just joined. I didn't hear the question.
Okay, do you understand the explanation I did? No.
The network got disconnected. I just joined.
Okay. Okay, no problem. So just try and check the video when it's be uploaded.
Okay, sir.
So that's inheritance. So inheritance, you inherit class. So you can have so I can decide to create another. Take for example now, let me create another class. Let me call it any class. Let me call it we can have different type of students. So let me create another class and I call it undergraduate students. So I call it undergraduate STD. That's the name of my class. So I can create that one. And instead of me rewriting, normally an undergraduate student is human being. An undergraduate student is a student also. So instead of me rewriting, okay, write properties for name, properties for matric number, and this and that. So let me just do, okay, just inherit from student. Okay now. So it inherits from student, and student automatically inherits from Iman. So by doing so, let me create a constructor for undergraduates. Let me create a constructor. So let's say for example now the constructor. Now what I want to do is I want the constructor to just print out the let me take for example, let's assume there's a default name that is given to every human. There's a default name given to every human. So now in this case, let me just say name equals human being. So let's assume that's a default name, human being. So let's not forget name is a variable, so I can actually reset it for me. So now it automatically gives, so when you create an instance of it, it does that. So then let me now come okay, and so let me just say this now. The case you want to actually touch someone, you want to, as it is now, that graduate does not have any attributes yet, but it has inherited so many attributes from class, from student, and also from humans, because student has inherited from humans. So I can actually say, now if you want to talk with attribute that is related to the class itself, you can just use this. That means you're talking about this class now. This, I want to relate with this. So now this dot. Now as you can see, all the properties, just because this guy inherited from student, and student actually inherited from human, that give us access to all the attributes. So I can actually ask it to, okay, print the name. Print the name. So to do that, so with just this just this simple creation of, I have access to everything. So we can see the beauty of OOP. So it reduces stress. It reduces stress. So you don't have to rewrite so many methods. You don't have to. So in the after next week, we'll start our calculator project, and you will see the implementation of all this. So now you don't have to rewrite too many dirty codes, and your code is just ugly and all that. So it's just simple, like just simple understanding, just inherit. So that's the concept of inheritance. And in case you don't want a class to be inherited, now you don't want a class to be inherited. So maybe as it is, I don't want anybody to inherit this class. Now you can see me, I put sealed. That means you can't inherit this class. I'm very sorry, you can't inherit this class. So as you can see, when I come here, I can't inherit this class. You can't inherit this class. So anything you seal, then even if you seal a method, also if you put sealed in front of a method, let's say this. So you can actually seal a method. You can seal a method. So then let's now go to another feature of OOP, and that is what I call encapsulation. Encapsulation. The concept of encapsulation is just what we've done. Take for example, you want to come in. Why the error here? Take for example, you want to protect some details. Now, there's what we call, now imagine if I make this now a property, this department, and I call it and I don't want to make it a field. Now I believe by now we understand what a field is, what a property is, and I just say get. Now what I've done is I've made this property a read only at property. That means you can't set the value. Let me come again. You can't set the value, you can only get it. So it's another way to protect your variable. Say for example, maybe from my undergraduate, I want to say console, not from, let me create an object of it. So let me create a new object of okay, you can see now it's already underlining it. See now, std1 department. Now you can see what I'm doing here is I'm setting the value. That's the concept of setting. I'm setting the value. I'm saying std department, I want you to equate EEE to it. So but while I was defining the property for std department, although it is public, but I've given you the property of only get. That means you can only get the values for this property. You can't set it. So now I can decide to print whatsoever is there. Let's assume, if you can see now, it's not, if I say console dot, if I say console dot write line, console dot write line, and I say std1 dot department. In this case, I'm getting it and it's not complaining. So in this case, I'm getting it. In this place, I'm setting it, but it's complaining because I've told while I was creating it, I've told the variable, the property that make this property only a getter. Make it only a getter. People can only get it. People can only read it. So they call it read only. So if I want to make it also write to be able to writable, so I'll just put set also. So in this case now, okay, you can get it, you can also set it. So if we go back now, it won't complain any longer. Okay, I've not saved it from that place. Let me save it. Okay, student. Okay, let's save it. So now, as you can see, it's not complaining any longer because I've made it. You can set it. You can also get it. So that's the concept of getting and setting. So by doing that, you are making some variables private. You are protecting it. That's the concept of encapsulation. So you can protect your variable using that means of get and set, and you can also make it a private. So which we already understand that when you make a variable private, you can't have access to it outside the class. So that's the concept of encapsulation, ensuring sensitive data are hidden from some users. So that's what encapsulation means. So I would like to stop the class here. I don't want to bore us with a lot. I'd like to stop the class here. So is there any question? So today we've revised what we learned last week, and we also looked at inheritance and encapsulation. And I believe by now we have much more and better understanding of the concept of object-oriented programming. As you can see, our code is looking like it's making more sense. I'm looking at it that we can actually build a project out of this. Like we have Iman, we have students, we have undergraduates, we have. I think we can do much more from this, even outside the calculator of it, very small. Can you just one small thing out of this? So I want to give us an assignment. Are we together? I want to give us an assignment of I want you to think a project out of all that we'll be writing, like all these classes that we have. Just think of something we can do that has to do with students, has to do with undergraduate. Can we write a program that, let me see. So that's the assignment I'm giving. I want us to think. I want us to think a project out of all these codes we've written. So any question from the assignment or from all that I've explained? Any question? Okay, Mr. Adil, any question? Miss Goodness, Mr. Timilane, any question?
No, I really don't have any question. But concerning the assignment, is it that we should just think of an idea, or we should what's it called, discuss it on the
Yeah,
Slack
okay.
channel?
Let's think about it and let's drop our let's from what we can get from our thoughts. Drop this now. You don't need to submit the assignment. Drop the idea on the page, and you can start working on it personally. Can we do that?
Okay, all right.
So think of an idea, drop it on the channel, and start working on it personally. Then I can see Mr. Smileni has submitted his assignment on method. I have not confirmed the pull request. I will confirm the pull request now. So when you are doing it, you can also push it so that others can see what you are doing. So at this point, let me quote the scriptures. And the scripture says, when I was a babe, I spoke like a babe. And we are no longer babes. So at this point, we don't need some petty assignments. So I want us to start working on something tangible. Start thinking of, we may not, like, the assignment, we may end up using a desktop app to do it. Understand? And part of what we touch at the end of this class is you guys will be introduced to how to make use of desktop applications. So we just integrate some of our code to desktop applications. So anything you can think of, just know that we can and we will actually implement it on the desktop. So I want us to think and think from this code so that we won't have to write, since we understand many of the things we are doing now. So think of an idea, drop it on the channel, and start working on it personally. Then just add it as a folder to the repo you've forked. So then you can push it, send a pull request. So when you push it, so I will also see what you are doing. So I want us to do that before Wednesday, which is our next class. So I want to see what we are thinking. I want to see our idea. So can we actually do that?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Timileyin, can we?
Yes.
Okay, so that would be wonderful. So thank you so much for today's class. So see us on the channel.
Thank you for the class.
Yeah, have a wonderful weekend.